Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the internet and meet some of its real unsung heroes.
Okay, so have you ever really stopped to think about this? You shoot off an email from Gmail, and it just shows up perfectly in your friend's Outlook. Or, you tap your phone to pay for coffee, and bam, the money just zips from your bank to the cafes like instantly. It feels like magic, right? But what's really going on behind the scenes?
Well, that seamless experience feels like magic, but it's definitely not. It's actually the result of some seriously clever engineering. And it all boils down to two really big ideas, two foundational concepts that pretty much make our entire digital world possible. So yeah, let's dive in and figure this out.
All right, let's meet the heroes of our story today. Interoperability and standardization. Seriously, think of them as this dynamic duo. They're the ones working behind the scenes, making sure all the zillions of different pieces of our digital universe can actually connect and talk to each other without a hitch. So how exactly do these two work together? Well, think of it like this. Interoperability is the goal. It's the superpower, right? The ability for all these different systems to just work together as if they were one big team. But every superhero needs a source of their power, and that's where standardization comes in. Standardization is the rule book. It's the set of common rules that everyone agrees to follow, and that's what makes all that amazing teamwork possible.
Okay, let's put a slightly more formal definition on it. Interoperability, at its core, just means that systems, even ones built by totally different companies using completely different tech, can not only exchange information, but can actually understand and use that information. They act like a single, unified system, even though they were born in totally separate worlds. And standardization? Well, that's the how. It's all about creating that common ground. It's the process of setting up the shared rules, the agreed-upon formats, the protocols, basically making sure everyone is speaking the exact same digital language. You could say it's the absolute foundation for making interoperability happen.
But here's the thing, this is not easy at all. Getting all these different systems to talk to each other is a massive challenge. I mean, without these rules, the internet would just be chaos. It'd be like a digital Tower of Babel, with thousands of different systems all shouting in their own unique language, and nobody understanding a single word.
And listen, this isn't some abstract, theoretical problem. Do you remember the early days of instant messaging? Oh man, you had AIM, you had Yahoo Messenger, MSN, and they were all their own little separate islands. That is a perfect example of these first two big hurdles, a ton of different technologies and totally inconsistent ways of formatting data. Your AIM account had no way of talking to your friend's MSN account. It was just chaos. You literally had to have 3 different chat apps open just to talk to all your friends. What a mess.
So, how do you fix a mess like that? What's the secret weapon? Well, it's something called communication protocols. You can think of these as the universal translators for the digital world. There's a super specific, super detailed rulebooks that our heroes, standardization and interoperability, use to bring order to all that chaos.
Okay, so how do these protocols actually do that? How do they create order? A good way to think about it is like the rules of grammar for a language, right? They define the common vocabulary, the exact sentence structure, or in this case, the data structure, and they make sure it works no matter what platform you're on. And what's super important, they also build in rules for things like reliability, security, and making sure the system can grow. It's a whole package deal for clear, trustworthy communication.
And the crazy thing is, you are using these all the time. Right now, as you're watching this, you're using HTTP or HTTPS. That's the fundamental language of the web. And while that's happening, other protocols like XML and AMQP are humming along in the background, letting all these complex business systems swap data and messages super reliably, and you never even notice.
Okay, so that's a lot of technical stuff, which is cool, but what does it actually mean for us in our daily lives? This is where it gets really, really powerful. Let's take a look at the real-world impact when we get this stuff right.
Take healthcare, for instance. Here, interoperability can literally be a lifesaver. Picture this. You're traveling, something happens, and you end up in an emergency room far from home. Because of standardized health protocols, that ER doctor can securely pull up your entire critical medical history, your allergies, medications, everything from your own doctor in just a matter of seconds. That's not just convenient. That could be the difference between them making a guess and making an informed, life-saving decision.
And it's the exact same idea in the world of finance. It's the whole reason you can use an app like Venmo to instantly pay a friend, even if they use a totally different bank, or why you can tap your credit card in a completely different country and it just works.
The entire global financial system is basically this giant web of trust, and it's all built on these incredibly strict, standardized rules for communication.
This concept even helps keep our lights on. Think about a modern smart grid. You've got power plants, substations, even the smart meter on your house. They're all constantly talking to each other. So if a storm knocks out a power line, the system can almost instantly reroute electricity around the problem, stopping a massive blackout before it even starts. All that reliability? Yep, that's interoperability at work.
So the big takeaway is that when systems can talk to each other, pretty much everyone wins. But maybe the biggest benefit of all is innovation. Here's a great example. When banks created standardized ways for apps to access data, we call them APIs, it didn't just help the banks. It kicked off a huge wave of new companies, fintech startups like Mint or Plaid. They built their entire businesses on top of that existing system and gave us totally new ways to manage our money. So you see, standardization doesn't just connect things. It creates a launchpad for the next big idea.
But the story doesn't end here. The job for our heroes is never really done, right? The digital world is always changing, always evolving, which brings us to the future of connection.
And that really leaves us with a huge, fascinating question. As we see these incredibly complex new technologies emerge, things like AI and the literal billions of devices in the Internet of Things, what new rules are they going to need? What does the next generation's rulebook have to look like to make sure they can all work together as seamlessly as the web does for us today? That right there is the next giant challenge for our unsung